Hello. Today we'll be discussing the monument cross-section, longitudinal profile, and substrate size distribution researched at the Kinne Brook Dam. Monument cross-section is measurements taken of the cross-sectional dimensions of the dam. These measurements were taken from sites 1 through 5, and only one cross-section was made at each site, allowing for 5 total cross-sections. At each site, every 6 inches was measured in a span of 10 meters. The elevation was measured in feet, and the cross-sections included the measurements of the thalweg, bank full height, and the top of the first terrace on both banks. These measurements were taken from left to right. Going along with cross-sectional measurements is longitudinal profile. Longitudinal profile measures the elevation versus the distance. Again, sites 1 through 5 were measured, but the longitudinal profile measured from the top of site 5 to the bottom of site 1. All measurements were taken in feet, like cross-sections, and were based on the 600-foot elevation. Data was collected at each site. Substrate size distribution was used to collect data on the sizes of the substrates before, during, and after dam removal. To collect these, the Woolman pebble count procedure was used. To perform this procedure, you have to sift through pebbles in the stream and measure them in a category and then place them in a category according to their size. These measurements were taken at the same 5 areas that the cross sections were taken in each site, which was a 10-meter area. The pebbles were collected at each step, and whichever pebble was at the top of the data collector's foot when the step was taken was measured. This allowed for perfectly random data to be collected in order to obtain an accurate mean number. 100 samples were collected at each site, 1 through 5, allowing for there to be 500 samples per year. After all 500 samples were collected, the Kruskal-Wallis and Mann-Whitney non-parametric tests were conducted. These tests were used in order to compare the data sets. They were used because of the random sampling that was done by taking the steps and picking up the pebble, and so the Woolman pebble count, and it allowed for a more accurate mean to be obtained. Next, we will move into the results collected from the data from the Kinne Brook Dam. We will begin with the cross-sectional and longitudinal data. This data was collected and placed into graphs by site, as you can see, and it includes years 2012 to 2021. This data was plotted in order to see trends through each year to see if there was sediment transportation and if this transportation was affected by the hydrodynamics of the stream before and after the dam removal. The data suggests that sites 2 and 4 were affected, specifically in the thalweg and the bank full widths. Sites 2 and 3 were reconstructed after dam removal, possibly altering sediment data. This is important to include because if we did not know that, our data could be messed up and there could be a difference from sites 2 and 3 comparing all the other sites. Continuing the results, we look at the substrate size distribution. The fine sediment substrate pre-dam removal is and post-dam removal have been graphed onto this data set, and the partial dam removal and complete dam removal have been marked, which happened in 2012 and 2014. The partial dam removal did not heavily affect sediments other than at Site 5, which was our reference site. After the complete dam removal, sediment began flowing downstream more, and it turned from fine sediment into larger gravel, which allows us to assume that the stream became more healthy as the fine sediment moved out of the stream. And finally, I worked on some images in a software called ImageJ, and ImageJ was used to calculate the areas from sites 1 through 5, so we can mimic the field measurements. And when I was looking at these images in ImageJ, I was able to calibrate this image specifically to 7 meters, again, so I can mimic the field measurements, so I can get an accurate area of where the sediment was and where it had moved and where we had made our cross sections and longitudinal measurements. And the ImageJ allows you, through seeing the area and the mean numbers, to see the sediment that has broken down and traveled downstream, allowing for a healthier stream. I want to finish up by saying thank you for tuning in to my presentation of the Kinne Brook Dam, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.